welcome everybody back to another edition of Coffee with Cathy. I have with me today the two chairs of the two tribes down in the 19th district. From the Mashantuckets, Rodney Butler, and from the Mohegans, Kevin Brown. I've been working with both of these gentlemen on the issues revolving around gaming in Connecticut and protecting Connecticut jobs. So I want to thank you both for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us and just being a great representative of our district. We appreciate that.
Thanks. It's a lot of fun working with the both of you. It's been an experience to learn both about your history and sort of about what we need to do to protect jobs in Eastern Connecticut. And both of you are working on different things to promote both job creation and the current jobs that we have. And why don't we start a little bit about talking about what's going on in Eastern Connecticut with the two of you. So Rodney, you're opening up a new set of outlets down there?
Yeah, new outlet mall that we've been focusing on for many years. In the context of that we can't just rely on gaming and gaming dollars, and we have to expand the offerings that we have and truly become a resort destination. And so we've been talking for years with various developers about a destination retail facility, and we've partnered with Tanger Outlets. They have about 50 facilities located across the country. They themselves are based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're opening in 3 weeks, incredibly, a 300,000 square foot, 80 outlet store facility on May 21st. That will provide for 900 jobs. It's been over 200 construction jobs. And all in, the total investment is north of $120 million.
That's wonderful. That's really great. And I think you're right. We don't want to concentrate on any one industry. We want to concentrate on a whole host of industries. And to that line, Kevin, you have a tourism destination within the Mohegan borders also.
Right. We have a number of things going on, Cathy. At scale, I would say the thing that we have going on is another $120 million investment, and that's the newest hotel that we've added to the property. We just poured concrete for it last week, and we are looking at an opening next fall, which will be right in line with our 20th anniversary of the opening of Mohegan Sun. In addition to that, we have our other non-gaming business diversification efforts, Aruga's Sports Bar right there on the reservation, just off the casino property, and a number of other businesses that we're opening and operating.
So in Eastern Connecticut, we're already looking at a number of ways to expand job creation in the area. And my favorite phrase with both of you has been living wage jobs to provide good jobs. And I've actually heard from a lot of casino employees who say without the jobs that both of you provide, they would not be able to afford their homes, and many of them are homeowners. They're not just renters in the area, they're homeowners.
Yeah. It's one thing for Rodney and I to talk about the job losses, but when you hear from those folks that are in those jobs, that's the real testimony that these are folks that are not just paying the bills, but proud of where they've come from and what they have. I mean, my favorite example is always the decade-long employee. Many of our employees are proud to say they're day one employees. They've been there ever since we opened. And so we're talking about a lot of folks that are vested in their lifestyle and how they're paying the bills and proud of where they are and what they're doing. Those are the people whose jobs we're talking about protecting.
Yeah, and we just had an all-employee meeting last week in which we announced some really exciting stuff on the wage front, where we are doing an across-the-board merit increase, which we hadn't had the luxury of doing for some years now, and we reinstituted that because it was the right thing to do. But to highlight what Chairman Brown was saying in that meeting, 2/3 of the employees, when we asked them how long they had been with us, when we said how many people have been here for 10 years, 2/3 of the people in the room raised their hand that they had been with us for 10 years or more. And we have employees that have been with us for almost 30 years at Mashantucket. And so again, that speaks to the types of jobs that we have. They're really lifelong career jobs for many people.
And I'll add one more metric to all that. From our side, 75% of our managers and supervisors have matriculated through the system. So these aren't folks that are stunted in their growth either. There are great opportunities out there.
And I really appreciate hearing that too. I would like for both of you to know that some of the workers that lost their job at the Fusion paperboard have gone on to jobs within both of your operations. I stay in touch with those people, and to be able to get jobs, those 145 people have gotten jobs that were almost equal in pay from their 30-year career
Yeah.
at Fusion. And I think that that's an
Yeah, that's great.
excellent testimony. And so it shows that a manufacturing worker to go into a gaming industry is making very similar wages, even though they're just starting out in the gaming industry.
And they were able to make the transition.
Correct.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think that that's a really wonderful thing in Eastern Connecticut, to get people to get into jobs that protect their families. And I really appreciate you providing those jobs for people. And so most recently we were faced with a couple of different struggles. You know, Connecticut's faced a lot of different struggles. And so in my focus, whenever I meet with anybody, is to talk about the jobs ends of things. And we had a possibility to lose several thousand jobs from both of the two gaming industries by the opening of the Springfield Casino and the Yonkers, New York casinos that are gaming industries that are going on.
Right.
And so we've been working together to try to stem that loss. When did you first start finding out about the two other gaming industries in the two adjoining states?
We answered a similar question this morning. And, you know, I think what's important to note is there's nothing new here. The recently released New England Gaming Report by Dr. Clyde Barrow, you know, indicates the potential for job loss that's coming because of those new facilities. But it also really simply restates something that's been said for about the last decade, which we have experienced, which is when the competition increases on our borders, we will lose. And we have been reduced, our employee base has been reduced over the last decade by about 30%. The Connecticut slot tax revenue base has been reduced by about 30%. There's no reason to think that as we look to the future and see increased competition that we won't experience those same kinds of losses.
Right, right. I mean, we have that history. It's there. It's factual. So we know exactly what to expect. Unfortunately, we know exactly what to expect when new competition that's much more convenient for our market comes into the Connecticut market. It's going to have that direct impact on the operations and on those jobs.
I think I kind of sidestepped the first part of your question. I think when the realization hit of the importance of doing something rather than nothing was the day, frankly, that the Massachusetts referendum to sustain the gaming legislation passed. Once we knew that it was a reality, that's when I think everything sort of kicked into high gear.
And so we've been looking at this in the General Assembly on a bill that would allow, for the first time ever, not just sort of as a result of the gaming industry, but this is really a new adventure for the two of you to work jointly as tribes. My understanding is that's not always been your experience, that in your history you've not always worked together.
Well, at one point we were one tribe, right? And there was a moment in time where things just went awry, a family dispute, and people chose to go different directions.
Time has passed.
Time has passed, and we've actually, again, something that we've discussed a lot. We've worked on quite a few things together and successfully, right? I mean, we share the same interests as two sister tribal nations. But also being in the same industry, we've worked together on many, many initiatives, including working with the state. So this is no different than what we've been doing, more so in our recent history as opposed to the centuries ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's good to see the both of you working together, and have your employees sort of work jointly together to support this endeavor has been something that is really also sort of more upfront than it's been in the very recent past, to hear both Mashantucket employees and Mohegan employees come together and speak positively for this endeavor is exciting.
We had a very encouraging jumping off point, I think, when we all stood on the steps of the building not too long ago, and there you saw it. Mashantucket, Pequot, Foxwoods employees, Mohegan Sun, Mohegan tribal employees all standing together with our elected legislators who all recognize the importance of this issue. And as I like to remind everyone, that was, I think, a symbol, or at least it provided the optics to see that this is not about the gaming industry. This is about Connecticut residents that have Connecticut jobs, that get paid Connecticut wages and pay Connecticut taxes.
And I think that that's also important to know, that people are having those life-sustaining jobs. And I think that that has to be said over and over again, because many people think that you're looking at the revenue for the two respective tribes, and that we're looking at revenue for the state of Connecticut. Quite frankly, the revenue for the state of Connecticut would not be realized at least in the next biennium, maybe in the future, but it may stop a loss of revenue, but it does not guarantee an increase in revenue, and certainly will not be addressed in the next 2 years.
Right.
No,
So-
and that's the key to this discussion, is that it's really to protect those jobs and those revenues, and the impact of the Springfield facility that's under construction today will be up and running in 2 years. I mean, this legislation passes and we start constructing a project, it's going to be at least, you know, a year and a half to 2 years away before we actually have lights on and opening doors and accepting patrons. So it'll be some time, but again, primarily it's to prevent the revenue erosion that we're starting to see and the job loss that we're starting to see.
And that's something that I think that people need to hear again, over and over again, because really, you know, we want to make sure that people know that we're laser focused on keeping Connecticut jobs in Connecticut, and protecting the industry that has been here in Connecticut for 30 years on your case,
Yeah.
20 years on your case. So that's amazing that we've been around for this length of time. And you know, we're going to continue this conversation, so we're going to wrap up this little segment right here, and we'll be back in a couple of seconds, a little bit, to continue the conversation with both the chairmen. Back to the second edition of Coffee with Cathy, and I have the two chairmen with me from both the Mohegan tribe and the Mashantucket tribe. Both of the two tribes are located within the district that I represent, and it's really my great honor to welcome them both back again. You know, a lot of times people don't realize how much the two of you do for the communities that you reside in. And having been around, and you both have representatives on the Council of Governments that consists in Eastern Connecticut. You both have representation there, and work with the communities that that you reside in. And you do a lot with Montville, Kevin.
Right. Well, you know, both of us, even though we have established ourselves as a sovereign government, and we like to purport our ability to have sovereign-to-sovereign relations at the federal and state and local level, at the end of the day, we are integrated into the fabric of the communities that we live, work, and play in. You know, and just to give an example, both Rodney and I were involved in the United Way banquet last week, and at that event, both of our tribes were recognized for our work in supporting the United Way throughout the region.
And I saw that in the newspaper, Rodney. Your picture was all over the place.
Yeah.
You got an award.
Yeah, actually, you know, I was surprised by it. Right? I've been a part of the United Way for quite some time. I'm on the board there. I've been the campaign co-chair along with Melody Peters for a couple of years, and so, you know, shout out to Melody. I love her; she's great. And so I've been engaged for probably 7 or 8 years now. And for the last few years, I've been kind of the MC for the event, giving out the awards. And so they surprised me this year with an award that they gave to Gemma Moran last year. So to have an award that was given to Gemma last year and then presenting me with it this year was just a tremendous honor. I haven't done a tenth of what Gemma has done, and she's an incredible woman. And those that don't know her, she's done so much for the United Way of Southeastern Connecticut and labor in general, and just been an advocate for human rights in the workforce. And she's a great lady.
She really is.
He won't say what it is, but he won the Leadership Inspiration Award.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
I think that's great because I think it's true. I think that in Eastern Connecticut, you've exemplified what we like to see in good leaders that are true community partners. And a lot of people don't know what the United Way has done in feeding Eastern Connecticut.
Incredible.
We have mobile food pantries that go to the far reaches of Eastern Connecticut in places where people might not be able to drive around. I think that's really important to recognize, and in part it's because of your leadership that has happened, Rodney. You should take great pride in it. I know that I was really excited when I saw that.
Well, it's certainly the culmination of a lot of people working together, and so we both take great pride in that. And I think United Way is a great example of what we do. We both sponsor a mobile food pantry. We've both been engaged with United Way. We're doing a day of caring together, both Mohegan and Foxwoods working together with our employees, going out to Harkness to clean up Camp Harkness, I think in the next week or two. So, and those are things that we do regularly on top of the millions of dollars that we've contributed back to the local not-for-profit organizations.
Right. Our workforce is involved and integrated as well. I mean, look, we have, 7,000 employees each, and when we can energize them to activate and be part of this community, that's sort of that intangible benefit of everything that we do.
Right, and you also touched on it, the millions of dollars that you've given to nonprofit organizations in Eastern Connecticut needs to be recognized from both tribes. Not only to the nonprofits, but you both give back to the individual communities that you're in, and I know that very well. I've talked with both mayors, and they both recognize what the two tribes do, you in Ledyard and you in Montville.
Right.
But it wasn't just you that got an award. This guy over here, he got an award too.
Yeah.
Also recognized as Employer of the Year. So that's great.
A Forbes 500 Employer of the Year, and I think that is a recognition of just really what we just finished talking about, which is the kind of folks we have and the way we treat our employees and the importance of all of that to why we think it's a good argument to say, hey, let's sustain this industry. It's a successful part of the Connecticut economy. It isn't the only part of the Connecticut economy, which is one of the favorite arguments I like to get in with folks who think that this effort to expand or develop an alternate gaming site is all about sustaining Connecticut on the backs of the gaming industry. It's not that. There are other avenues that we need to go, but the gaming industry is a central and successful part of our economy.
These jobs matter, right? And that's what's the most important takeaway for us, in that if there were another industry that was possibly at threat or at risk of laying off thousands of employees or relocating to other jurisdictions, other states to do business because it was too difficult here, the state jumps in right away, as they should, right? And takes action to protect those jobs, and we're looking to do the same thing here.
As we have when we were facing a base closure, as we have when we were looking at Electric Boat losing thousands and thousands of jobs. The same thing with Pratt & Whitney. We have helped out many industries, and we have looked to expand other industries as we've done with Jackson Labs. I know that both of you know of the Eastern Advanced Manufacturing Alliance that works with Electric Boat to bring manufacturing back in the area. It's something that we need to do. So this is just one component of the many jobs that are in Eastern Connecticut that we're looking to expand on, not to count out our healthcare industry, which is expanding in Eastern Connecticut with UCFS and Bacchus Hospital and New London Hospital, Lawrence and Memorial. And so I think that those are things that we look at all jobs and say, what can we do to not only create jobs, but to save the jobs that we have and to improve on the ability of the employers to have those living wage jobs in the area.
And it's not just those direct jobs, Cathy, that we've been talking about so far. It's those indirect jobs and those second order jobs that come from the industry that we run. Employees from a direct employment standpoint, our employees come from nearly all of the 169 towns and municipalities in the state of Connecticut. But equally as important, if not more, are the goods and services provided by vendors that come from all of those communities and the dollars that are spent in support of what we do.
We were just at an event where a young lady, I had a chance to speak with, who her company is in Avon, Connecticut, right? And they have 55 employees. And she was saying that their media company and the majority of their business they do with the casinos. And that if that were impacted, that would directly impact. Now, you don't think of a small business out in Avon being impacted by what's going on in southeastern Connecticut, but there's the real impact there that they will feel it because we're going to have to pare back on those purchases.
And I think that that's something that, again, I think you're absolutely correct, both of you, when you say that the local vendors would be directly impacted if we should lose more jobs from the gaming industry. And I think that that's something that we need to talk about over and over again so that people recognize it's not that. There is one thing that I think that also some people are a little fearful of. There's the gaming industry, like many other industries, has its ills, and one of those is problem gambling. This piece of legislation would require additional resources, additional revenue go into directly as targeted money to help people out with problem gambling.
Right.
And my understanding is both of you are extremely supportive of the endeavors to deal with the problem gambling issue.
We've both been partners with the Problem Gambling Council since inception of both Fox's and Mohegan Sun. We've always had representation on the board, and we are the primary contributors to that initiative. So we recognize that there is a sliver of the population that has that issue, and we're very diligent in addressing it.
2% is the number, and I don't mean to underwhelm it, but 2% of our gaming patronage is what you would consider a problem gamer. That is not to underwhelm it. I'll give you a vignette. We had an individual who had self-excluded and was not supposed to be back in the facility gaming. That person sort of fell off the wagon, decided to come to our casino, sat down at a slot machine, and within 20 minutes our surveillance had picked up on that person and walked them out. We take this very seriously. This is not just something that we pay lip service to. And the other point that I like to make is, for those that would suggest that by building a facility we're going to create more problem gaming, a convenience gamer, which is sort of the phrase we use to describe the people who use this new facility, is not the same as a problem gamer. And keep in mind, if we don't have that facility in the state of Connecticut generating that revenue source to take care of the problem gamer, they're going to go to Springfield. And there will be no revenue source to the state of Connecticut
Correct.
to take care of that problem gamer.
Correct. And I think that's my understanding is from the research that I've looked at, that some 60% of the revenue at Springfield will come directly from Connecticut patrons, not come from any place else.
It's the targeted population.
And so we know that we would end up sending our residents across the border to game, and we would get none of the jobs, none of the revenue, and all of the problems.
Right.
So I think that's sort of it pretty succinctly. I really like working with both of you. I got a chance to go to Mohegan Sun the other day. I actually have been working with one of the veterans that's a Mohegan tribal member, and he's working very hard on establishing a tribal council, veterans council.
Organization, right.
And I think that's wonderful. So if you see him, tell him I said hi, and I really appreciate his work. And I think that's a great thing. And I want to thank you both for being such great community partners. It's a pleasure all the time. I know that sometimes I ask some of those hard-pointed questions, which I figure is my job.
That's your job.
And I really think that this is a good thing for Connecticut to do. It will protect Connecticut jobs, number one, and that's really my focus, is to protect good living wage Connecticut jobs. And it has been your employees that have convinced me that this is an important thing for us to do, and I want to thank you.
We appreciate you
Absolutely.
standing up for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.